Good morning to you. You are watching Issues at Hand on Church of Uganda Family TV. My name is Bruno Edgard Tumuhere. Welcome to this day's episode. Now, of course, as usual, Issues at Hand is proudly brought to you by Protea Hotel in Tebe. For those of you who went there over the weekend, I know you have a lot of testimonies to share. And for those of you who are looking forward to spending a wonderful time at the hotel, please, the number is on the screen. Make your reservation and booking today and enjoy a wonderful experience at the hotel. Now, on this day's episode of Issues at Hand, we are talking about declaration of assets, income, and liabilities when it comes to leaders. Yes, you leaders out there, aspiring leaders, this is a very important conversation to have, and we shall find out why. Remember, the Inspector of Government also spoke about a lifestyle audit, so there are people who need to let us know where they're getting some of their incomes from to enjoy a certain lifestyle, but we shall talk more about that. Now, to have this discussion on declaration of assets, income, and liabilities with me, I have Mr. Baguma Amos, who is a manager verification, that's in the Office of the Inspectorate of Government. And then I have Miss Caroline Wanyana, who is a supervisor verification, that's the Office of the IGG as well. Thank you for accepting our invitation and welcome to Issues at Hand this morning.
Thank you, Bruno. My name is Amos Baguma, manager verification, as he has introduced me. I'm glad to be here. I usually watch you from home, but now I'm here. And this morning, we shall talk about declaration of income, assets, and liabilities. This is a function that is in the Constitution, that goes to the Inspectorate of Government Act, that goes to the Leadership Code Act, and gives that mandate to the Inspectorate of Government, in which every 2 years the leaders declare their incomes, assets, and liabilities to the Inspector General of Government. This law...
Before we go there, for those of us who are still novices, maybe one of you can share with us the mandate of the Inspectorate of Government. I know many times we hear IGG, but we may not really understand what the mandate is. So this is our chance to understand the mandate of the Inspectorate of Government.
Okay. The mandate is quite wide, but to be specific is that we have to do things that put in administrative justice or fight administrative injustices in public offices, fight against corruption, make sure that there is no maladministration anywhere, implement the leadership code, and give public awareness to the country on good governance, on evils of corruption, so that we have a good society. In brief, I can package it there. Thank you.
Indeed. Do you have anything to add to that, Miss Caroline?
Thank you, Edgar. I'm called Caroline Wanyana, Supervisor, Verification, Inspectorate of Government. Yes, as the manager mentioned, the IG mandate is wide, and the IG also monitors government projects across the country, for accountability and to make sure that the government money is not misused. Thank you.
Indeed, and what a powerful mandate. So, understanding now what Inspectorate of Government does, now we can get into the discussion of declaration of income, assets, and liabilities, like you were sharing with us.
Yes. We have two acts that we implement, but specifically this morning we will talk about the Leadership Code Act. And within the Leadership Code Act, this is the law that was put in force to make sure that it regulates the behavior of leaders. Subsequently, of course, it was amended and added on all other public officers or all other people who draw their salaries from the consolidated fund. And one of the issues therein is that every 2 years, leaders should declare their incomes, assets, and liabilities to the Inspector General of Government. So what do they declare? They declare all the incomes that they earn. They declare all the assets that they own, all the liabilities that they have incurred. Now, in doing so, you are looking at the incomes that you earn as an individual, or you earn with another person, or you hold in trust for another person, or the income that somebody holds for you, earns somewhere, but it comes to you. Similarly, assets that belong to you as a person, that you jointly own with another person or other persons, that you hold in trust, you are keeping for either your siblings or any other person, and those assets that are not with you but are earning income for you. That's what we declare. How do we do it? We have a form that is online. You simply log in into our website, www.igg.go.ug. Go to Action Center, pick declaration, you put in your email or your phone number, and the form comes to your inbox, and then you start filling and you submit. For this year, we are declaring between 1st March and 31st March midnight.
And okay, so wow, that's very interesting. And my question then is, who is required, because we're talking about leaders, but we have so many leaders in many spheres here in this country, so who is required to declare these incomes, assets, and liabilities?
In the Leadership Code Act, we have Section 2, which defines who a leader is. And we call it the second schedule. It has detailed who a leader is. We have two sets of leaders. Either you are appointed or you are elected. If you are elected, we call you the political leader. If you are appointed, we call you the appointed leader. Now, from the political line, we do start from the president, ministers, members of parliament, chairman LC5, district councillors, city councillors, and move down to LC3 chairpersons and vice chairpersons. Now, on the other hand, in the appointed line, we do start from chief executives, board of directors, and move down to heads of units and divisions. Now, we also have specific people who come in positions of leadership. One, any accountant in government or government institution is a leader. Any procurement officer in government is a leader. Any internal auditor is a leader. Any member of the procurement committee or contracts committee is a member. So basically, in brief, those are the leaders. But when we go to that second schedule, every institution is catered for. But to summarize it all, start from head of division and move up to the chief executive leaders. Come to the political line from the president, move down to the LC3 chairperson and vice chairperson. You are getting leaders.
Indeed, and just a follow-up question on that. When it comes to chief executive officers, for example, does this cover just public institutions or private institutions as well?
The leadership code is about public institutions. Unless you are a board member, you are in the private, but you are a board member in a public institution, then you are a leader.
All right, that's very understandable. So before we get into more semantics when it comes to this discussion, why is it important that we have this declaration of income, assets, and liabilities?
Thank you, Bruno. These public officers that you see are holding power or are holding those offices for the people. Now, they must account to the people that when I came into your office, this is how I was. I either had one shirt, one trouser, whatever it is. Huh? But now this is where I am. So that the public is able to know whether this person has got all these things corruptly or properly, using the amount of money that he earns or she earns genuinely. So it's an accountability tool that we use to the general public.
Ms. Caroline, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Bruno. On the category of leaders supposed to declare, we have the special categories of the military. We have the UPDF. They begin from the rank of major upwards. And then we have the Uganda Police Force, who begin from the rank of assistant superintendent of police upwards. And then we have the Uganda prisons as well. And then we have secondary schools, government-aided secondary schools and tertiary institutions, the head teachers, the principals, and their deputies. They're also in the category of leaders. Yeah.
It seems like a very big mandate when it comes to following all these institutions, all these leaders. Does the Inspectorate of Government really have that capacity? Because you have to follow the incomes and the assets and liabilities of so many of these leaders.
We, first of all, now what we've done, we've put this declaration form online, which has now moved us into, actually has propelled us, because everybody sits wherever they are and they are able to declare. That's one. Two, when we were still on paper declarations, we would be having too much paper that would be difficult to store, to analyze. But now that we went online, we are able to quickly look through these forms online and get what we want. Now, as to going down now into what we would call verification and verify all of them, the capacity as of now, not yet. We can verify about 500 of them if you are going to do a deep verification. But we are moving forward. We are designing tools where we should be able to verify all of them within the 2 years before the next cycle.
Now, you said that this leader can go and access this form online.
Yes.
My question to you is that, is this declaration mandatory, or is it on the goodwill of the leader?
This is a mandatory act. You must declare, and if you don't, you are punishable under the law. At this juncture, let me say something within that law, that it created what we call a leadership code tribunal. Should the inspectorate have any issue with you in matters regarding the leadership code, it will take you to a court, a tribunal called the Leadership Code Tribunal, and when you reach there, you will be accordingly sanctioned. And sanctions are many. I know my colleague Carol will talk about them somewhere, but they range from they can fine you, they can demote you, they can warn you, they can even dismiss you, or be made to vacate an office, as the case may be.
So is there, again, the reason why I keep asking this question, because you said someone can go and get this form online. Is there a timeline? Is there, how does the Inspectorate of Government ensure that these leaders are pushed to fill in that form?
The forms are filled within 31 days, 1st of March to 31st of March. Beyond that, you are out of line and you are therefore punishable. So what we do contact the institutions to give us lists of all the leaders in their institutions. Like now, that's what we are doing in preparation. We get the name of the leader, his email address or her email address, his phone number and title, and we load them onto our system. So when this person comes and puts in an email address that is recognized in the system, then a form will be sent to him or her and will declare.
Ms. Caroline, for those who do not take it upon themselves to fill in that form, like he had said, what are the sanctions that they face?
Okay, thank you, Bruno. The Inspectorate of Government has made it easy for the institutions and districts for their leaders to declare. We have put in place a method where we use focal persons who are nominated by the head of the institutions. These focal persons coordinate with the Inspectorate to ensure that their leaders try their level best to submit their declarations. So if they are caught off guard by 31st March, surely it's upon the leader now. So in that case, we refer them to the Leadership Code Tribunal, and then there are penalties to those offenses of non-declaration, or if we find that a person may be under-declared, didn't declare everything that they own, you find that the leader might be dismissed, or if there's property that was discovered not having been declared, it can be forfeited to the government, and among others. Yeah.
Indeed. Now that takes me to the discussion on the verification process. How exactly does that process transpire?
Once leaders have submitted their declarations, ordinarily we subject them to a verification process, a very long and elaborate process, whereby we do check whatever you put in. If you said I have a bank account in Equity, we go there and check out what is there. If you said I have land in Kabong, we are supposed to go there and check. Then we are also supposed to check all these government registries, land registry, URSB, URA, to know everything about you and your declaration. Then we check motor vehicle, everything that you have put there. We check it, then we tabulate them. Now we've checked your income, we've checked your assets, we've checked their liabilities. Now when we aggregate them, do they match? What you own today, does it match your past and present incomes? Does it match your past and present liabilities? And if not, then we ask you, where did this difference come from? And you have to explain.
Some heavy explaining, especially to the tribunal. Do you have anything to add to the discussion on the process?
Yes. We have about 25,000 leaders in that country. And the staff of the IG will only manage to verify a certain number, probably about 500 to 600 leaders. So as soon as the declaration period ends, then we embark on that exercise. So it will depend how long each leader will take because of the different assets that they have. Some will have few, others will have more. But at the end of it all, once it's conclusive, then the result will be either it's commensurate, the leader's income is commensurate to the assets, or if it's not, then it's forwarded to the tribunal for further action. Yeah.
And on those who fail to declare, for instance, there's a report about how 24,000 leaders are yet to declare their income, assets, and liabilities. Why is this? And why is it that some may not be willing to make these declarations?
Sometimes it may not be that they are not willing, but our experience is that you find some people say, I forgot. I was out of the country, I was sick, various reasons from various people. But in my experience, I think I haven't seen somebody who has stubbornly refused, apart from one person who stubbornly refused and was punished accordingly. But usually our leaders do comply. Where they don't, they have a reason. Where the reason is not convincing, then we have no choice but to take them to the tribunal.
And how does the Inspectorate of Government ensure that there is compliance for those who might not be readily able to comply to the declaration?
As we've said, we've moved this to an online. Therefore, if you are within your bed, in your office, at midnight, at any other time, you can declare. So we thought that was one way that we revolutionized this declaration, that declaration made easy. Wherever you are, you can do it. Whether you are in the country or out of the country, you can declare. So we really see no much reason now for anyone not to declare. Two, we, as my colleague said, we do have focal persons at every entity who make sure that all the email addresses are correct and are put in the system, all phones are correct and are put in the system. So we don't see any reason absolutely why somebody should fail to declare.
Indeed. Anything to add to that, Ms. Karina?
Yeah, Bruno, we have some leaders who may not be exactly computer literate, especially in the rural areas of the country. So these focal persons aid so much. They help the leaders. They help them. They show them the whole process, and it's easy for them to do at the end of the day. Yeah.
Indeed, and that's very important when it comes to compliance, because we have seen in many cases a lot of people in Uganda, the populace, are talking about how some of these leaders go scot-free without declaring their assets, and it's a very big issue. And we are of the view that we pray that this issue of declaring assets gets complied with, so that we can help, like you said, keep our leaders accountable. Is there a difference between declaration of income, assets and liability and the lifestyle audit? Because we have been having that discussion on the lifestyle audit.
The declaration of income, assets and liabilities provides a basis on which the lifestyle audit will be built, because it's very difficult to do a lifestyle audit on a person if you don't know who that person is, what he has, what he earns from. So once you have captured his incomes in the declaration form, his assets in the declaration form, then you are able now to move into the lifestyle audit. So it's the basis on which lifestyle audit is best to be able to go into the entire life of a person.
And getting into the entire life of a person, some may ask, why is it that these leaders' income that's even outside their scope of work, when it comes to the office they are holding, should be also declared? Should it only be the income that is earned from his service or her service in office?
Because when they earn the income from these other sources, they apply those incomes to either acquire property or develop the properties or pay school fees for their children. So there is no way you can separate the income earned outside from the income earned on the job. Ordinarily speaking, the income from people's jobs is very little compared to what they are spending on. They are doing many other activities. Some are farming, others are doing business. So that income must be brought in to be added to the one that he or she earns from office. And then you are able to compare with all the assets that this person has. That's when you do a complete check on a person.
And so, okay, we might understand income, assets, but why liabilities?
When you borrow money either to acquire property or to pay school fees or to get a car. So that's part of what you use to have what you have.
All right. And when this declaration is made, then and the verification process has finished, okay, well, first start by telling us what happens after the verification process is done and whether this information of the income, assets, and liabilities of our leaders is available to the public.
When we verify, we go in to say we must come out with a statement that what you have is within your known sources of income and liabilities. We must come out with that statement. Where we find that it's not within, then that's when matters of the tribunal will come up. Okay? It is important that we subject everyone to see whether what he or she has matches with the earnings that he has been having over the time.
And is this information available to the public? Like in some other countries, you can know the income and the assets that leaders have.
Yes. Now, this, according to the law, the assets and the declarations made to the Inspector General of Government are a public document. However, I'm quick to add that a procedure was put in place of how any member of the public can access that information. And to reiterate it here, you have to apply for it. And you state the reasons as to why you need it. And the Inspector General of Government will look at it and then will give to you at a very, very small and marginal fee of about 100,000. Then they give you.
But doesn't that counteract the intention of this declaration of income? Because doesn't the process for the members of the public getting this information, shouldn't it be made easier? Because at the end of the day, like you said, is to keep our leaders accountable. But if the process is that stringent, doesn't that affect the initial purpose?
First of all, it is not that stringent, but also we are...
For those, for instance, who don't have the 100,000.
We are aware of our society in Uganda that not everybody will be applying to look at your declaration form for purposes of fighting corruption. Some of them will be looking at it, wanting to extort from you, wanting to come at night and break into your home. So we discussed all those issues and said, let's put a nominal fee. If really somebody is very, very serious about this matter and wants to protect the country, 100,000 is okay. But we don't allow either the haters, the conflict people, any Tom, Dick and Harry to come and access somebody's information. And tomorrow, you will find them hurting, and it would, in effect, lose meaning of what we had planned to do.
Indeed. And Ms. Caroline, on the tribunal, so if someone, say for instance, a leader does not declare his income, assets and liabilities by the 31st of March, then you said the matter will be taken up with the tribunal. What is the process as far as the cases in the tribunal go?
Thank you, Bruno. The tribunal will ask you for the reason for your non-declaration. So that's what I said. There are different penalties depending on what the leader will provide. If, for example, if the reason is really acceptable, then they can be fined a small fee and then they'll be allowed to declare. If again the person is not able to do it, they will face the tribunal and then there are other penalties for that because they really gave you a chance and now again you're defaulting So it will be now stronger, probably a higher fee. And, the penalties move from simple to grave as the process goes. Yeah.
Maybe, Bruno, let me add on something here. To go to a tribunal, you are taken there by the Inspectorate of Government. So the Inspectorate of Government is the one that will ask you, sir or madam, why didn't you declare? And you will say, I didn't declare because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reasons. And they will evaluate it at the Inspectorate to see, does this really constitute a reasonable cause for somebody not to declare? When the answer is no, then the inspectorate takes you to the tribunal. If the answer is yes, that really what you are presenting is reasonable, then it will stop there. So it is the inspectorate that will go and accuse you at the tribunal. You didn't declare, the reasons you are advancing do not measure, so you be prosecuted there.
So just on that matter as well, is the investigation as carried out by the tribunal, is it focused on that reason, or when they find that your reason is not sufficient enough, they carry out more investigations on maybe your assets and your income to find out whether there's something fishy behind the curtain?
The tribunal does not investigate. It only adjudicates what we, as the inspectorate, bring to them. We are accusing this person for failure to declare. We give our reasons, we see how we evaluated, and then they will say, okay, what you are saying is okay. We therefore find this person, or we demote, or we dismiss. Now, but also at the inspectorate, when somebody has failed to submit a declaration, sometimes we choose and say, okay, let's now also look into his declarations. Let's first finish this failure to declare. He's allowed to declare, then we can look into what he has now declared.
You are still watching Issues at Hand on Church of Uganda Family TV, and we are continuing this discussion on declaration of income, assets and liabilities. It's a very big discussion, and here in Uganda it's important because it's part of a very big army when it comes to fighting issues of corruption and keeping our leaders transparent so that they can focus on building the country. Now, talking about leaders, did you know that there's a difference between leaders and public officers? Very interesting. I also didn't know that there was a difference, but that's why we have our guests here who are going to take us through that difference and so much more. And once again, my guests, I have Mr. Amos Baguma, who is the manager verification, which when it comes to the Office of the Inspectorate of Government, and then I also have Ms. Caroline Wanyana, who is a supervisor verification at the Office of the Inspectorate of Government as well. So what is the difference between leaders and a public officer? I thought they are the one in the same.
Okay, thank you, Bruno. This leadership code act that we are implementing was enacted in 2002, and it was requiring leaders to declare. When it came to 2017, an amendment was done, which included now all the other public officers to declare. But by that time, they were supposed to declare to their accounting officers, and it didn't take effect. In 2021, another amendment was done, where all the declaration of public officers were brought to the Inspector General of Government. Now, the distinction between the two is this. When the law was enacted, they specified who is a leader. As I said earlier, president, ministers, etc., up to head of a section or head of a division. Now, when it came to this amendment, they said all other people or staff of government or government entities that draw money from the consolidated fund or are paid through monies appropriated by Parliament, must declare. Now, the effect is this, that everybody who works for government now declares. But those who are specified as leaders, they are clear. Now, once we remove that group, then the remaining ones, we call them public officers. Leaders declare every 2 years in the month of March. Public officers, or the rest of the other staff, declare every 5 years in the month of April. To our viewers and listeners this morning, what we are going to receive in this month of March is from specified leaders, heads of units and above, LC3 chairperson and above. The rest of the officers of government, we shall categorize them as public officers, and we expect their declarations in April 2026. I hope that makes some distinction between the two.
Yes, it does, and very interesting that there is such a distinction. Now, talking about leaders, there have been. Oh yes, before we get to the discussion on leaders at the district level, what about those who are leading in an acting capacity?
The law says a leader is a person in a leadership position or acting. So you are either holding a leadership position or you are acting in a leadership position. So please don't give a reason that you see for me I was acting. No, you are either holding or acting.
That's very interesting, and it's important for us to clear the air, because like you said, there are those who might be acting in a leadership capacity, and then they say, you know what, me, I can't declare my income or assets or liabilities because I'm an acting leader. But thank you for clearing the air on that. The other issue when it comes to leaders has been at the district level, especially when it comes to declaration, the discussion that we're having this morning. So when it comes to district level, municipalities and cities, how does that work?
Okay. At the district level, we pick, on the political side, we pick the district chairperson, district councillors, and sub-county chairpersons and sub-county vice chairpersons. Now, in the Local Government Act, a district is equated to a city. So when we talk about the district chairperson, we are also talking about the municipal mayor. I mean the city mayor, road mayor. Then we will talk about road councillors. The councillors of a city are equated to the councillors of a district, and they therefore declare. The municipals, we only pick the chairperson or the mayor of the municipal and the vice, and we also pick the departmental heads. The divisions, we pick the chairperson of the division and the vice, because we equate the division to a sub-county. Now, when I leave the political line, if I'm in a typical district, you have a cow, the assistant cow, the deputy cow, the treasurers, the assistant treasurers, departmental heads, and section heads. Then, as my colleague earlier said, from the district, we also pick heads and deputy heads of government-aided secondary and post-secondary institutions. Of course, also at the district, we do have committees and commissions. We have the land board, and we also have the service commission. And the contracts committee. Briefly, those are people that are supposed to declare at the district setup.
Now, when it comes to those many categories of people at the district setup, at the municipalities, cities, and also the leaders that we're talking about, I see an issue, especially because I've seen that there are leaders who might not be aware of how to tabulate their incomes, the assets they have, and the liabilities. So for those who may not be able to tabulate and fill in the form appropriately, is there help for them?
When we began, we would teach almost everybody. Even now in March, when we begin, we shall be holding Zoom sessions where we can reach out to people who need help. But also at every institution, as she said, we have a focal person, which focal person helps people in the case of anything that is not clear in the declaration. The focal person will help. That's how we have designed it. But it's a very friendly form. You just log in and you keeps on asking you, and you are good to go. I also wanted to say something very, very small about assets. We have many assets that people are required to declare. You have land, undeveloped land. You have land that has buildings. You have vehicles. You have businesses. You have debtors. Debtors are people who owe you money. Then you have cash. I need to say something about cash. At the time you are declaring, you are required to declare cash if you have cash on you or on your mobile money or any other instrument that is 5 million and above. You are supposed to declare. But that excludes the one that is in the bank, because the bank will simply give us the bank account, and when we need anything there, we shall go and check. Some people have assets of treasury bonds, treasury bills, those investments. We also capture them as assets. And we also have a provision for any other asset that we may not have been able to categorize. For instance, in the form we didn't categorize an aircraft or a yacht. So if you have any other asset that is not specifically provided for in the form, we provided a section for other assets, any other assets that may not be specific. So that's what we request people to fill them properly, and we are good to go. Thank you, Bruno.
This is Caroline. Do you have anything to add to the kinds of assets that should be declared?
Thank you, Bruno. Mr. Baguma has mentioned all the categories. I would like to add that the form is easy to fill in that a leader will fill a particular section. When they finish, they'll save that section. And if they do not have all the information they need for the other sections, they can log out, look for the other information, come back, log in, and then continue filling. That's why we give it, the law gives it a period of 1 month. So if you begin, let's say on 1st, surely by 31st, the leader should have finished.
Indeed. And going to also the types of incomes, what type of incomes should you declare?
Okay, thank you, Bruno. There are different types of incomes the leader earns. There is the obvious one, the salary, and then the allowances. Those are pretty obvious. And then if the leader has an asset which they use commercially, for example, they could have a commercial piece of land, they earn an income, they should declare it as well. If they have a business, whether registered or informal, but they earn an income, they should declare it as well. And then there could be any other incomes, let's say from consultancies, or they have gotten per diems, or probably they've been saving with insurances and then the insurance pays up. That's also an income. They should declare all the incomes that they receive annually. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And for what happens? All right, I'm thinking about especially avoiding any miscommunication that may come after the process. What happens if you declare a certain income today, and then later on you get more income or another source of income? Won't it show that there is some discrepancy? How does the Inspectorate of Government handle that?
Thank you. In the current declaration, you will put your current income. After 2 years, the next declaration, you will update your declaration. What the inspectorate does, it will provide you with your previous declaration, so you will know what you previously declared, and then you will update it. So, for example, if you had a business, it was giving you an income 2 years ago, and now the business closed. So you will also mention it in the current form that that business has been disposed of in whichever way. Maybe it closed, or you sold it, or you donated it, and then you put if you received any income from that disposal. So it will be explained that way. Yeah.
All right, that is understood. Now, something that you've shared with us earlier on is the fact that there have been at least 500, 600 declarations. Are there any more achievements that you can share when it comes to leaders declaring their income, assets, and liabilities so far?
Yes. Well, then they're not 500. For leaders, they're about 25,000 declarations. The compliance rate has improved over the periods. Let's say it came from about 70, with more sensitization, with more willingness, it came to about 90-something%. That is, I think, a very big achievement. And then also, leaders also give feedback. These declarations help them in many ways. For example, they could have some court issues, and then the courts will request for those declarations. So if it was done rightly, it could be in their favor. And then also in some institutions, when you're applying for a job and they know that you are in public office before, they will ask for your declaration as a requirement. Whether you're applying for a job, a new job, or a job promotion at your institution, they normally request for these declarations as a requirement. So imagine if you haven't done it, then your chance will pass you by. Yeah.
Indeed, and that's why it's important that as leaders we declare our incomes, assets, and liabilities as a leader to be. That is, I'm talking to myself. But the leaders out there who are watching, what would you like them to take home concerning today's discussion?
Thank you so much, Bruno. The take homes are: the declaration opens 1st March, closes 31st March midnight. That's one. This year's declaration is going to be launched on 1st of March in Lira at the Mayor's Gardens, and it will be launched by the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament. And we'll have several other activities or series of activities to make sure that we enlighten our people, and this exercise becomes a success. And then we do appeal. Please fill in the forms, fill them early, because our system is like any other system, because we have seen a tendency of people going in it on the last 3 days. Everybody is knocking at it. 10,000 people are in it, and sometimes it gets proven. So to avoid any inconveniences on your part and on our part, we do request that come 1st March when we open, please do your declaration, and it can take about a maximum of 30 minutes for an ordinary declaration to be made. To be able to do it, get your documents. We prefer that somebody gets his documents regarding his income, assets, and liabilities in one place. You have all your titles, you have all your agreements, you have all your appointment letters, and when you have them together, sit down, fill the form, submit, then we are good to go. That's our appeal. The second appeal is that we are going to receive declarations from leaders and not public officers. Please take that note. Public officers, we wait for you April 2026. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Mr. Amos Baguma and Mrs. Caroline Wanyana, for coming to Issues at Hand this morning and addressing this critical issue. As leaders, you've all heard those who fall under the category of leaders and not public officers come the 1st of March throughout to the 31st of March. Please make your declarations known. It's very important, because at the end of the day, we need to fight the vice of corruption, and we need transparency and integrity from all our leaders. And thank you all out there, even if you are a leader or not. We are all leaders in different spheres, but it's important that even if you are not a leader in government, even if you are a public officer or you are a leader in the private spheres, it's still important that we are integrity driven and integrity bound, so that we can grow our country together. Thank you for joining us on Issues at Hand this morning. We shall return tomorrow, but there's so much programming here on Church of Uganda Family TV to look forward to. For instance, we have the coffee break coming, and then we shall also have Family Farm for those of you who want to grow in agriculture. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.